All right, so today we're talking about slope-intercept form, and we're talking about how to make an equation in slope-intercept form given a graph. So you'll notice here I have a nice picture on my graph, and it looks like a line, so it's a linear equation. And we need to find what the equation is. So it includes y and x and some numbers, and that's what we're going to find. So this is what slope-intercept form looks like. Y equals mx plus b. All right? And if we look at m, we already talked about what m stands for. M is the slope of my line. It's also the unit rate, which we've talked about a lot. We talked about it's the change in y over the change of x. And then given 2 points, we know that we can find the slope using the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we know a lot about the slope and what we talked about. I just introduced you to this new constant b, or my initial value, meaning like I started this is my starting place, and then we use the slope from there. And another name that we use for this is called the y-intercept. So where does my graph cross the y-axis? So the easiest way to write an equation given the graph, the first thing we need to do is find the slope by picking 2 points. So the easiest thing to do is to pick 2 points on my graph, and again we want to pick those points where the line perfectly crosses the corners of the grid. So like we wouldn't want to pick this point right here in the middle, because notice how that's in between different corners of the grid, so that wouldn't be a good spot. However, a good spot is always the y-intercept, which the y-intercept happens to be 4 in this case. So if I put a dot there on 4, because it perfectly crosses the y-axis there. And then another good spot would be down here at -4, 2. Notice how the line crosses perfectly in the corners of the grid there, and unlike the other spot I put in purple. So those are 2 points I can use. So then the second step is I'm going to find the slope between those 2 points. And again, that just means the change in y over the change of x. And so we always find how far it goes up or down first, then we find out how far it goes left or right. So let's go ahead and do that. So it looks like it goes up 2 and to the right 4. So my slope is +2 over +4, which reduces to 1 over 2. So there we go. There's my slope. Now, we've already done this inherently because I told you to pick this point, but the third step would be identify the y-intercept. Again, where does my line cross the y-axis? And that's why we call it the y-intercept. And we already put a dot on it. It's 4. So my y-intercept is at +4. Then the last step, since we have the slope and the intercept, is write the equation in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to write some blanks here. So y equals blank x plus blank. Again, we know what number goes in front of x. That is our unit rate or our slope, so that's 1/2. And then what goes behind x is our starting place, or my y-intercept, which in this case is +4. So what we do, we find the slope by picking 2 points. We want one of those points to be the y-intercept. And the other point is going to be a point where it perfectly crosses one of the grid corners, or one of the box corners on my graph. And then we find the slope between the 2 points, identify the y-intercept, and then plug those into slope-intercept form. And there we go. That's how you get it.